Welcome back to our next diagnostic adventure. I am Keeney and I will be your YouTube certified diagnostic guide man today. And today brings us the 2015 F150 with the 5.0 liter. The story goes it is a no crank. There is a brief history. The customer was driving approximately 40 miles an hour. There was a neutral flare. When that neutral flare occurred, he ran it into actual neutral gear with the shifter and then back to drive, and it seemed to continue to drive forward, though it did not seem to shift forward gears. He said it felt like perhaps a third gear. I don't know what the limp home mode gear is on this particular vehicle, but he said it felt like third gear. I'm inclined to believe him. Also, the service wrench was observed. No check engine light, which was interesting. And he took it somewhere and had it scanned, and they found a P0706, which was a transmission range code circuit something or other issue. It will not, somewhere in there, apparently I didn't take notes, somewhere in there he continued to drive it in third gear, but then he shut it off one night, come back to it sometime later, and it was a no crank at that point in time. It makes sense to have, if the truck doesn't know what gear it's in, then likely it's not going to allow us to start it because it doesn't know if it's in park or neutral. And that is what I know at the moment. We're going to grab the scanner. We're going to plug into her, see what our code list is, and get going from there. We got coming over to the truck to put a battery charger on it because we're going to have the key on for a while, and it's raining, probably loud. And I popped the red cover up, and we've got some aftermarket wiring and some weird device that it leads to up under the dash. It looks like, I don't know what it is yet, but there is our yellow connector aftermarket wiring. It goes down and around and then goes across the bulkhead. And after it goes across the bulkhead, she drops down to there. Back there we can see that little pass through, and we can see, maybe this thing will focus, this dude right here, this little wire. Yeah, you kind of see it. That wire right there goes through that pass through. And then on the inside, there's some goofy module. I don't know what it is. I haven't Googled it yet. But as I block everything, we're going to look under the dash next to the OBD connector. That thing right there, it says, I can't read it from this angle on the phone, but there's that device. So I am going to do a little bit of due diligence. I'm going to figure out what that is, see if I can figure out how it ties in. I have not plugged in to scan codes yet, but I asked the customer if he had aftermarket equipment on here, especially when I do electrical stuff. I always ask that question, and he said he did not. So I don't know if he's aware of this or how it got installed, but let me figure that out. So the Googles says that is a Start X remote start something or other. I don't know how it works yet. I still haven't plugged in. That's what I'm going to do right now. We know we got some aftermarket remote start system on here. We'll still plug in, get a code read, and just look through some PID data like the normal procedure always takes this. Well, we just had an interesting development. I turned the key on to scan her for codes. We scanned her for codes. About half of the cluster went out after, I don't know, maybe 30 seconds or more. And then the total cluster went out like the key was off, but the key was still on. So like right now the key is on. Oh, she just went out. The key, where's our, oh, the key is on. Like there's the crank position. There's the on position. And she's dead. So let's turn the key off, pull it out. She lit up. Let me put the key back in. And there's a Prindle display that didn't exist earlier. It says park. It didn't say park earlier. Like the P was not lit up. So it's key on. We got check engine light. Oh, but now the P disappeared. And I went to crank. We have nothing. So letting off of crank. I'm going to film this, but I'll cut it and we'll see what happens. I'm going to leave the key on and we'll see if this event happens again.
That's interesting how the park lit up.
There it goes. So that just, and the key's still on. And then I think here in a second, this cluster will finish dimming out with the key still in the run position. Oop, the thing dropped up. Oh, there she goes. And the key's still on. Get back over here. There's the crank position. There's the normal run position. I have absolutely no clue if that's a standard operation feature for a 2015 F150. I really didn't think it was because I'm pretty sure I've been in these before with the key on with a scan tool. My phone cut me off. I don't think that's a standard feature. I don't know if it actually is on the F150, no clue, or if we got some issue with this Start X controller on top of everything. But this is going to be fun, cycling this key on every 30 or 60 seconds to be able to get PID data because it won't stay on by itself. We may just end up unplugging that here in a second, but I want to get a pattern first. Anyway, let's flip to our scan tool with the greatest glares as always. Just the most impressive glares. Our powertrain control module has transmission range sensor codes. Our ABS module has brake assist vacuum too low, some tire pressure monitors, some invalid data. But these are I think our core points of interest. So I will grab some service information and see what it says about those. We have some rather interesting developments. That 30 or 60 second, whatever it was, time between when you turn the key on, get out of here. When you turn the key on and the dash goes out is now inconsistent. Sometimes it's been like 10 seconds, sometimes a little bit longer, somewhere in between. It's odd. Switching to some, also, I haven't looked up the codes yet, but I was looking at PID data. Here's what we got with PID data. Right now we're in park and have great glares as always. But I'm just going to run through the gears, and these are changing. So here's reverse. Oh, that's hilarious. Now they're not changing. I swear to you, these pressure, maybe there's some, oh, maybe I was looking at the wrong one. Yeah, there they go. So park, here's reverse, and the key just went off. So let's turn it off, turn it on. Oh, wait, that didn't work, did it? I hope y'all are enjoying this because every time that the dash goes out, the key essentially goes off and I lose all my data. I got to reselect all this. So this is fun bouncing around. Anyway, we're in park. Here is reverse and not much really changed. Let's go. But this one down here tells you the actual gear. So we have no gear indicator on the cluster, but it tells us in this tool. So here's neutral. And you can see the shift solenoid pressure B at the second row it changed. Oh, here's drive. There they all change. Here is low or 2 or whatever. There's 1, manual, whatever. So it does change there. But up here on the dash, as I'm rolling through the gears, we have no change. We have change on scan tool. We have no change on the dash. And we have something really goofy going on with the cluster. Now, oh, there it goes again. Let's turn it off, turn it back on before I lose all my data. Cool, I did not lose my data. We're actually going to look the codes up next and see what it tells us. Today is a different day, and we still don't have internet. It's a lot of fun, and I had to switch phones so I can look up service information and record at the same time. So hopefully this looks and sounds halfway decent. We've got our series of codes, the 0705, the 0706, 0707, and 1702, 1921 range transmission sensor stuffs. I did go through a couple of those, and it all points us to Pinpoint Test C. Specifically, I'm looking at the 1921 transmission range signal code. It says the engine may not crank DTC P0706, which we have, 707, which we have, P1708, which we do not, may set. It says, clear the DTC. If DTC P1921 returns, clear the DTC again. Rerun the key on, engine off, and key on, engine running self-test. If DTC P1921 returns, go to Pinpoint test C. Now, that might put us in a little bit of a quandary. I wanted to leave the remote start thing in there while I did my testings, but it seems, I think that remote start is killing our ignition switch signal after that 30 or 60 seconds or whatever it was. And so the Pinpoint test, I think, is probably going to run for longer than, or excuse me, the key on engine off self-test that it does, I think will run longer than 60 seconds. That means what I think we're going to do, we're going to go and try to clear it like it is and run that test. If it works, cool, we'll go to the next step. If not, I think we're just going to unplug that remote start module and then do this step again, clear codes, run the key on engine off self-test, and see what results that yields us. We got the code scanned again. Let's hit the quick erase button. She's done erasing. We'll hit the read again just to see if it's set up or set right away. Ooh, it did not. We've got no codes in engine computer. Will she fire? Oh, you gotta be kidding. I really don't exactly know what to do in situations like this. Let's hit our fault scan one more time. We still have no codes. We'll scan it again. And PCM, no codes. Well, let us just go through these gears real quick and see if she will go. There's reverse. We got the backup cameras on. Probably can't see, but backup camera kicked on. Neutral. Drive. Manual. I don't know if I can up and down. I can see manual. Apparently it's limited to manual 3. We'll go to 2. Oop, that was 1. There's 2. 1. Well, everything's working. I guess we're going to have to go for a test drive and see if something shows up on a test drive. Well, this has been fun. We were driving along all right, and then I decided to go up a fairly long, steeper grade, and we got a neutral flare. I was just holding steady, pedal like 60 mile an hour, 50 mile an hour, somewhere around there, and then just boom, the RPM jumped up to like, I don't know, 4,000 or 5,000. And when I looked at the Prindle, it started dancing, like the red indicator started dancing back and forth on them. Now we got a C manual wrench, and it looks like we are in 5th gear limp mode, and we're also sitting on a kind of a little U-turn drive circle dealy, but that's what we got there. A little service wrench, and it's in 5th gear. It does not accelerate very happily. We've got great glares. Let's see what codes we got while we're here. Continuous memory codes. You probably can't see nothing. I don't know what to tell you. Well, it's taking a minute. There she goes. So 0706, 0707, and a 1702. What I'm going to do, well, now I'm going to use this word twice. I feel like I'm in a quandary. Do I get back to the shop in 5th gear or risk clearing the codes and going to park and not being able to get back out of park? Because that's what happened to him. I think I'm actually going to limp this back to the shop just to make sure I'm not stuck on the side of the road. But let's go back there and keep going. Just made it back to the shop. I'm still in drive, haven't done anything except pull in. I want to see if it'll give us reverse. For him, it did. Oh, yep, she engaged reverse fairly aggressively, so we are backing up. Now let's go ahead and see if it'll give us drive again. There's neutral, drive. Oof, very rough engagement. Very slow acceleration, but we are pulling forward. Well, I think we're going to do what the thing said, what the service info said. We'll just clear codes one more time, see if that brings everything back, and then we'll do the key on, engine off, key on, engine running tests, and we'll see what that brings. But I think after that, depending on the results, but I think next after that, I'm going to disconnect that remote start system and go for another test drive and see if it will get rid of it. I'm also going to dig through the data. I did actually record PID data when we were doing that test drive just now, so I will look to see if anything might show up there when it happened. So it looks like we can see the event in the data pretty clear, but just got to figure out why it happened. But here's the data, and then we'll do code clear and the tests. We were cruising along. I'm just going to deal with the glare. Vehicle speed 62 miles an hour. And then as I hit this next button, you'll see we get a drop in red, which is our range hertz. We get a drop in green, dark green, which is range percentage. Also, gear commanded, gear measured change. And so if we go back to here, I think this might be a ratio. I'm not really sure. Yeah, it says to 1, so this should be ratio 1. So 1 to 1. So I assume fourth gear is probably 1 to 1 according to this. So we got a 1 to 1 ratio, and then we have this event drop where the ranges go zeros, and then we also have this change. Where'd it go? So now we can see commanded now goes 1. And it was previously 4, and then it stays 1. This was our event. The whole time we're doing, vehicle speed slowed down a little bit to 53 mile an hour. You can see it slow taper. That's the event. Just at least we got that recorded. Doesn't give us total answers yet. Let's move to a code clear, see if we get our prindle back and our self-tests. Just keyed off and keyed on, and it will not start. So we're back to our square one, where we go to start it, we get nothing. Let's go and do our code clear. I guess I'll just do that one with you hanging out here. Trouble codes. We will erase codes. Yes. I saved the freeze frame also as a PDF from this, so I got that to look back on. Come on, buddy. Now we got our 1921 again, but why will it start? So it still won't start. Let's hit erase again. I don't know why it wouldn't erase codes. That's kind of odd. Maybe we have to key off for longer. I don't know. I've not come across that. Or maybe you have to clear it twice. What is it, like the GM vehicle? Some of you got to clear twice? I don't remember which one that was. Well, let me figure this out. Alright, I let it sit key off for a few minutes, keyed back on, and those codes won't clear again, so I think it's active right now. We're going to go under the dash, unplug that module, and then see if we can clear these codes out. Okay, this is what we have pulled out from underneath the dash. Let us key on. If I can find the key, apparently it's up here. We got the key on. We'll close the door, get rid of the dinging. Turn this on. Let's see if we actually have communication. I'll do a read code again. I don't know. Apparently, I'm unfamiliar with these Ford OBD connectors. That thing looks like it's got a whole module in it. Alright, so we do have codes. Let's erase them now. Yes. Hopefully this works. What do we think? What do we think? Yay or nay? Nobody knows. Maybe she's got an actual problem. Ooh, they're back. We got real problems. We're gonna have to, I guess, go back here. So let's go escape. Let's do key on, engine off. Read codes. Okay. It said to clear it first, but we can't really clear these, so everything's dinging and running. We just got those. Well, I suppose we'll go to Pinpoint Test C. The fun of no internet. Right here is where we're at for Test C. It says enter the following diagnostic mode on the scan tool, and it says TR PID, TR DC, TR frequency, so duty cycle and frequency, I assume. Move the selector lever, observe the PIDs, TR DC, TR freak while wiggling the harness or driving the vehicle. Compare, I think I may have recorded this too, but I do like this step here. Compare the selector level or duty cycle to the following chart. So we got print numbers there. Does it go over? That's it. And on this scan tool specifically, we've got those two. Let's go ahead. We are in park, and it's supposed to be 8 to 25.8, and we have 0. Reverse is supposed to be 30.5 to 39.31, so here is reverse. We have no change. Neutral is supposed to be 40.54 to 52. We have no change. Drive is supposed to be 54 to 71. We have no change. So it sounds like we are on to something for sure. I did not have the foresight to pull this thing all the way forward to the rack, so I think we're going to have to rack it up, wiggle some wires, and look at these values and see if it change. Sometimes it's funny how y'all will catch stuff probably before I did. The transmission range percentage in hertz is one of the parameters we looked at that I recorded, and we can see that we were in, let me get this set up. All right, so we are cruising along in drive here, and our range, our percentage is 59, our hertz is 126, and duty cycle in drive should be 54 to 71, and it is. It is 59 with a great glare. If I hit the tab over, boom, there's where it goes to 0, and 0 is what we had when we were just doing our last frame of tests. But this here looks like our issue. And then it goes up to, oh, you know what? I wonder if this is when the Prindle was dancing across the screen like I saw. Because then it goes to 10. And 10, according, 10 according to this is park. So right here it thinks it's in park. And then it goes to 22, which is still park, and then 21, and then 59 again. So 59 is back to drive. So it thought we went from park to drive, all the while our vehicle speed here is at 55 miles an hour, which I promise I did not go to park at 55 miles an hour at all. And then we went back to drive. So we did actually capture our actual problem that causes the codes. That's very cool, but now I think it's gonna be a little bit of an uneventful dive. We're really just gonna follow service information and do the testings it thinks it has. One of the things it said in here that it could be is a possible, it gives a list of possible trouble things. It says connectors, wires, transmission lead frame, which I'm pretty sure Ford is kind of known for their lead frames having issues, or the transmission range sensor, or the PCM. Could all be options. So we'll keep going through the trouble tree and see what it pulls up. I have done what the instructions said. While monitoring those, we wiggle the wires from the trans controller to the engine computer while in park and had no change on either of these parameters. Likewise, we do seem to have fixed our short key off issue, or 30 or 60-second key off, by removing that remote start thing. So at least we can have the key on for all this testing, which was going to be required anyway. Let's go to the next step. Well, we have a slight change of plans. Had to step away from the vehicle for a second, came back to it, and now we have our range position stuff back like it's supposed to be. In that case, we've got likely a temperature problem, so we are going to, I guess, fire this thing back up, run it on the lift until she screws up again, and then we'll come back to doing the rest of our testing. Looks like the next thing it's got us doing is doing power and ground checks, or at least power checks or something, but I'm going to do power and ground checks at the trans connector, and then it's got some like resistance measurements and whatnot, but we got to get the thing to fail again, so let's start with that. In replaying our data that we took when we broke down, I wanted to look at transmission fluid temperature. So we're about 167 here, and as I play this along, that starts to increase, and when we start going up the hill, we're at 170, 172, so it looks like around 170 possibly is our fluid temperature, or maybe that's about when it starts to goof up. Right now our fluid temperature is 152. I'm going to go ahead and see if we can't, well, we should be able to clear codes. Now, actually, I'm not even going to clear codes. We'll see if it actually starts. It does not start, but let us now go here and try to clear codes. I suspect these will now be able to be erased. No trouble codes, there it is. Now she should probably start up. Let's see what happens. It does start. All right, we are on to something. Let's go back to our live data, and then we can pull our group. Whatever. Anyway, all I'm gonna do here is let it run in gear and see if it about that 170 mark, if it'll screw up again on the lift while running, and I'll tell you what happens. Been driving it in gear, getting the fluid temperature up there. Nothing's happened yet. We're at 186. She just started getting wonky. She did all that. I have not changed drive. Ooh, I need a screenshot of that. There it is. Ooh, but it's fixed. So it got weird for a minute. Oh, I did not look at the Prindle display. Right now it's still there. I'll keep going. We'll see if she messes up again. Alright, she's messing up right now. Our Prindle display disappeared. Oh, there's our service wrench. We got the fan on. There it is. Now, if we've learned anything, we should be able to go to trouble codes. There should be codes present, and they should not clear as long as those duty cycle and hertz values were 0. Make sure we got our repeatable issue. Boom. Oh, that's a new one. Invalid. Oh, yeah. So we aggravated the ABS stuff when we were driving on the lift, even though we hit the button. But now if we erase those, I'd say 3 of those should come back. Yes. Oh, that's weird. No codes. Let's read them. Ooh, we must be right on the threshold. That means this thing's going to start. Oh, we got our Prindle indicator. Ah! Well, let's do it again. Everything's kind of loud at the moment. The engine fan's on. It is in limp mode. I did get it to stay. So far, it's been in there for maybe a minute or so. We appear to be in 5th gear, idling on the lift. So our RPM and speedo gauges are pretty well tracking together. There's no shifting going on. I come back down. So we're sitting about 200. And I would have thought it was temperature related, but we're at 30 degrees higher temperature than we were when I happened on the road. That said, road load might heat up the gears more, maybe change temperature profile inside the trans a little bit. But hopefully, but we've been doing this about the same amount of time, maybe 15 minutes. I've been trying to drive on this lift or so, but it seems to be mostly steadily broken now. So I think now is a great time to get back under there. We'll do a power ground checks, keep going through our trouble tree, and see where it takes us. Not 100% sure where we left off. It's another day, and we're going through the trouble tree. Step one is to check power pretty much to this trans controller. It wants you to unplug the connector and then do a test that way. Look at the pins. We wiggled the connector. I'm not going to pull it out just yet, just in case there's something going on with it. I want to try and finish as many of these tests that don't require me to pull it out first. But anyway, it says basically check for power. We are teed into the power wire. Flashlight's in the way. Up there on the trans connector there. And then over here, right now we do have the failure, so we let it idle on the rack for a while until it got hot. We had the failure, and I actually had the scope lead in. Come on. Scope lead in while it failed, sitting on the rack. There's a lot of noise on this lead, but I'm not sure why there's so much noise. I'm not 100% sure. If you followed my last video or so, you'll see that I shorted the scope lead, and so I've got a brand new scope lead in here. I don't know if there's something going on with it maybe, or if it's just a really noisy signal. Anyway, first step for the trouble tree is check power. We got power going on the whole time. It's staying high, so we'll move to the next step on it. I think we're making good progress. I'm going to keep just bringing you up to the updates after I do the testing. It's probably going to go a little bit smoother for the video, but let me flip you around and show you what we got. The first two steps are checking voltage on our thing that you can't see here. So pin 12 was V power. We had power on that all the time. Step 2 is check power on pin 4 here, violet. And if we go to our service information here, it says, oh yeah, oops, it's below it, my bad. You want to test this connector, pin 4, and it says check for voltage. Is voltage present? Yes or no? And that's an interesting one. Here on the scope, you can see we started to have some dropouts, and then down here it kind of went permanent. That's when the engine fan kicked on. But here was the scope trace at about the same time this was dropping out. I did page through the frames a little, but what you can see is, if we zoom in on this, to answer the service information question, is voltage present? The question would be yes if you're taking just a voltage measurement. What I probably should do is put a probably a positive duty cycle measured on there, 39%. It doesn't quite match what we got for our like the table spec that we were looking at, but that's interesting. Anyway, let me zoom back out here. We'll get rid of this. When this thing on the left, when our percentage in hertz started to drop out, we started to have hiccups in this data. You can see it there a little bit. It starts to drop out. If I go to the next frame, we can really see some issues starting to form. And so the answer to this question, if we bring our cursor down, is voltage present on this wire 200 millivolts? Man, that'd be a very, very close no. But what you will see over here, if I actually page to the end of this, by the time, so what I've been doing is waiting for the engine, like letting it run in the background and then doing other stuff. And then whenever the engine fan kicks on, it's part of the limp mode. So I just listen for the engine fan. And when the engine fan comes on, I come back to this. But when I come back to it, you can see our values actually returned 22 and 126. And this is current, like this is our latest frame. So if I hit the resume button, you can see we're at 22 and 126. If I hit the play button here, we'll zoom in probably quite a bit. we're actually getting messages. So right now it is not failed. So I'm gonna have to go clear codes, run it again, get it up a little bit hotter until we get a clear failure. This was a partial failure, but I think this is where we're getting to. We want to have a clear failure, and then we'll figure out what's next from there. Now, let me get you a little caught up. Nothing has happened. After we had the weird squigglies and the dropouts here, I cannot get it to fail. I've got in, brake torqued it, had it up to 215 degrees. It's been running for, I don't know, man, like a half an hour to an hour, somewhere in there. It's been a while, and it won't fail again. I've even run it up on the lift, like driving it, shifting it, all that stuff, and I cannot get it to fail. But what I want to do is show you over here what we had going on with service info. All right, here's what we got going on with service info, and you're gonna have to remember or rewind back to where we saw that, where I said it was like, the question was, is voltage present? And I was like, well, that's like 200 millivolts, I think, or whatever it was. Like, it's almost no, but for the purpose of all this stuff, we're going to say, is voltage present? Yes. And here's why. If we go, is voltage present? No. And when it was failing, it was like 200 millivolts, I do believe. So if we go to C5 right here, it says check the TR sensor signal for an open, and we're not going to have that. But really, so it's basically checking the actual wires between the engine computer and the transmission. And the question is the resistance less than 3 ohms? If no, repair the circuit. Okay, that makes sense. Obviously, we would throw in a load test here as well, that it doesn't tell us to, but we would throw in a load test. The engine fan just kicked on, but it's not in limp mode. Looking over there, if it is less than 3 ohms, go to C6. C6 is fun. It basically says check for another short to ground, and either you're going to repair the circuit or you're going to hit this access guided routines. And if you look down here, it says after replacing the new PCM, carry out the strategy download. So it sounds like it's going to want us to replace it no matter what we get for voltage readings in here. If we choose no voltage, or their 200 millivolt failure as no voltage, this is where we're going. And if we click that button, it'll take us up here to this new tab. And it just says straight up, a guided routine is not applicable for this vehicle and market. Replace the component that was faulted through workshop manual diagnostics. And so it says put a computer in it, an engine computer of all things. We are not going to do that at all, at least not right now, for sure. So we're going to go back here and say, is voltage present? Yes. 200 millivolts is voltage, and it is present. So let's run down to C7. Ignition on, measure connectors, and it says positive lead pin 12, negative lead pin 11. Those will be, so 12 is what we already checked, and 11 is ground. So it wants us to do an actual power and ground load test at the connector, which really is what I should have done. I didn't do it here at the very first time. I should have. Oops, nope, go away. Ground! And if we have good power and ground, is what it's saying, is voltage greater than 11 volts, which it would be if we have good ground. If not, we got a ground issue, but I got to get it to fail to figure that out. Like I said, we're just reading ahead a little bit, trying to get this thing to fail in the background. Is it greater than 11 volts? We're going to assume yes. Go to C9. Oh, come on. Then it says check manual valve connection, drain the trans, and all this stuff, and do an actual connection test between the TR sensor and the manual control valve. And at that point, everything is looking like a lead frame. If I can get it to fail again, which I need to get it to fail, I'm just going to do the same power and ground check like it had, but instead of having our scope lead on chassis ground or battery ground, whatever it was hooked up to, we're going to run it to pin 11 ground, assuming we're going to have good ground there. Looks like it's going to need a lead frame, but I need it to fail first because I got to get the proof. I will maybe bring you back whenever I can actually get it to fail again. I don't know if we're going to have to let it sit overnight again. I don't know. Anyway, that's where we're at. Probably looking at a lead frame, but I need to prove it. This is our latest setup and hopefully our last test. We've got the negative lead for the scope going to the ground circuit for the trans connector. We have the positive lead of the scope going towards the 12 volt, which we did already test. So we know that's good, but we don't necessarily know if the ground is good. Also teed into that ground, I know it's probably hard to see, but into that ground is the back side of this test light. So this test light is being illuminated by the ground circuit in the back of the connector and the power circuit in the back of the connector. And if we scroll down to our data, I don't remember if I said it already, but we let the transmission cool off. And we're going to try this again. Hopefully this will be our last test to say either we got a ground issue or we got a lead frame issue. You can see we got 12 volts coming across. We got a normal screen here. We're going to fire it back up, let it warm up, and if it doesn't actually mess up this time on the lift going through this temperature cycle again, what we're going to have to do is pull this test light out and just leave the oscilloscope leads in, watch that 12 volt signal, and then we'll go for a road test. We'll tie the wires up, but I like to have both, the voltage and the load test going together. So hopefully it fails here on the rack just to be extra sure. But if not, we can still pull the test light out, go for a test drive, watch this 12 volt signal, and make sure it don't drop out. There it is. It failed. 12 volts. Light is on. Oh yeah, forgot I was filming stuff and such. It's been a few days since we played this Ford. We got the new lead framies in and all the stuffs and gaskets and fluids and such to go with it. And it comes with the new rubber insulator foamy thing apparently we got to stick on. Also, let's go for a field trip over here. I did check our signal wire from our PWM signal wire from the trans lead frame to the engine computer. So last time we checked that, we checked powers, grounds, and that signal wire. But the question on the service info was, is there voltage on that signal wire? And we had like the 200, 160 or 200 millivolts, something like that. And I wanted to make sure that there was a voltage on that wire with the harness unplugged. So I actually did that test. And I was doing this when I remembered we was supposed to record it. So let me flip you around. We got the trans connector unplugged, and this is what we measured on. Oh yeah, we have internet now too, so we can print stuff much better. Pin 4 there, so our sensor transmission range PWM output. That is the one we had the failing signal on. So with the connector unplugged, it's still a little weird of a pattern, but like we're getting these sort of rises and falls, and we got good leads this time. Like our leads aren't shorted, and then also we have this sort of flat top. So it's almost like the engine computer is testing this circuit to see if there's continuity through it. I don't really know, but regardless, the service information question was, is voltage present? And we know that the PWM signal is coming from the lead frame, but what I was curious of, just to make sure with it unplugged, that the PCM was putting voltage out, like a bias or base voltage for the PWM signal to ride over top of, and we do have that. So this point up here is like, I don't know, 4.6 volts or so. All that to say, we do have good continuity between that wire and the engine computer, and so just the last 100%, 101% if you would, check the box, we got a lead frame issue. So we're going to drain it down, we're going to swap the lead frame out and bring it back when all that is said and done. We got our old lead frame out right here, and we got the new lead frame, and they do look the same. Part numbers on this side are a little different. Hopefully there's some sort of revision in here. We ain't got to do this thing again. Overall, the job isn't too bad. Valve body's hanging out here. We're being careful with it. But anyway, we're going to throw this dude on there, put all the new rubber sealy thingies that you can't see me on there as well. And then we'll throw her back in, and I'll just bring it back probably when it's already installed and we're getting ready to start it up. Well, I just finished filming, not even recording, not filming or recording, editing. That's the word I was looking for. Editing all the stuff that y'all just watched and realized that I did not record an outro or a conclusion to the truck. The truck is fixed. I got the new lead frame installed, took it for an extended test drive. I ran it up that long grade that it broke down on us the first time. Ran it up that grade a couple of times, took it on the highway, a little bit of in-town stuff. It's working the way it's supposed to. Truck has been gone for like a couple weeks at this point in time, and there are no issues. So, as always, I hope something in there was helpful for one of y'all out there, and I will just catch y'all up in the next video.